The day started like any other, but for the woman, it felt different. She walked slowly through the quiet streets, her mind full of ordinary worries, work, bills, and the small routines of daily life. She never imagined that she would find herself in a place buzzing with excitement, a place where people had gathered to see one of the greatest pianists of the time. The hall was large, with rows of polished wooden chairs and a grand piano that gleamed under the warm lights. She had come simply to watch, to experience something beautiful for a little while, but fate had other plans. The woman took her seat near the back, hoping to remain unnoticed. She felt out of place among the well-dressed crowd, many of whom seemed to belong to a world far removed from her simple life. As she settled in, she noticed the pianist. He moved with a confidence that seemed effortless, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. People whispered his name, and the air was filled with anticipation. The woman had heard of his fame, but seeing him in person made it all feel real, almost magical. She could hardly believe that someone like her, ordinary and quiet, could even be in the same room with such a remarkable figure. As the pianist began to speak, introducing the program and sharing stories about the music, the woman listened intently. His voice was calm yet full of authority, and his words carried a charm that drew everyone closer. He spoke about the joy of music and the unexpected places inspiration could come from. She found herself smiling at his anecdotes, feeling a warmth in her chest that came from being part of something bigger, something extraordinary. She never imagined that she would feel so connected to a moment simply by being present. When the formal part of the event ended, a casual session began where the pianist would interact with the audience. People were invited to ask questions, share thoughts, and even demonstrate their own musical ideas. The woman watched others speak, admiring their courage, wondering if she could ever find the bravery to do the same. She stayed quiet, hoping to remain invisible, yet curiosity and a strange sense of boldness stirred inside her. The pianist's eyes suddenly swept across the room, and she felt them rest on her. Her heart skipped a beat. He smiled, not in a way that mocked, but with a playful sparkle that made her nervous. Then, unexpectedly, he called out to her. "Why don't you play something for us?" he said lightly, almost jokingly. The room fell silent. All eyes seemed to turn toward her. She froze, unsure if she had heard correctly. Her fingers itched with a mix of fear and excitement, and a blush crept across her cheeks. How could he be asking her, of all people, to play? She had no formal training, only a few lessons long ago and countless hours of playing for herself at home, never imagining anyone else would hear. She hesitated, looking around to see if someone else would take her place. But the gaze of the pianist held her in place. There was a hint of humor in his expression, as if he were testing her, expecting her to falter. She felt a wave of embarrassment and dread. What if she failed? What if everyone laughed? Yet, beneath the fear, something unexpected stirred. It was a tiny spark of courage, a whisper telling her to try, to step forward, even if only for herself. Taking a deep breath, she stood. Each step toward the piano felt heavy, as if the floor itself resisted her movement. She reached the bench, her hands trembling slightly as she sat down. The piano looked enormous, its black and white keys stretching endlessly in front of her. She placed her fingers on the keys, feeling their smooth coolness. The room was silent except for the faint hum of anticipation, and she could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, trying to calm herself, to remember the small melodies she had played alone in her room countless times. When she finally pressed a key, a soft sound filled the space. It was simple, not perfect, but it was hers. The pianist watched intently, leaning slightly forward, curious about what would come next. She continued, letting her fingers move instinctively, recalling patterns she had long forgotten. The music began to take shape, simple but honest. With each note, her confidence grew a little. The sound was not polished, not professional, but it carried a sincerity that touched something in the room. People in the audience began to lean forward, their whispers replaced by attentive silence. The pianist's playful expression shifted to one of genuine curiosity. The woman, feeling the warmth of the piano keys and the focus of the room, started to lose track of her fear. She played from the heart, remembering the joy music had always given her in private moments. Each note carried emotion, a story of quiet determination, and a hint of the dreams she had tucked away. For a moment, it felt as if the room no longer existed. Only she and the music remained, the notes weaving a delicate story that no one had anticipated. The pianist's eyes widened slightly, the corners of his mouth lifting in surprise. He had expected something ordinary, perhaps even clumsy, but instead, he was witnessing something unique. The woman's playing was untrained, yet it had a rare quality that could not be taught: honesty and passion. When she finally lifted her hands from the keys, the room erupted into gentle applause. It was not the polite clapping one might expect from a casual performance. It was warm, appreciative, and full of genuine admiration. She sat back, stunned, unable to believe what had just happened. The pianist approached her, still smiling, now with a look of respect rather than amusement. He nodded slowly, acknowledging her talent in a way that words could not capture. The simple woman who had walked into the hall quietly, uncertain of her place, had transformed the moment into something extraordinary. As the applause continued, she felt a mixture of relief, pride, and disbelief. The audience's reaction was overwhelming, yet not frightening. Instead, it was a reminder that courage and honesty could shine, even when one least expected it. The pianist's earlier joke had become a doorway to an unexpected revelation, not only for the woman but for everyone in the room. She realized that sometimes the most remarkable moments came from stepping into the unknown, from allowing oneself to be seen and heard, even in the smallest way. After the performance, people approached her, offering compliments and expressing amazement. She smiled, feeling shy yet grateful. The pianist stayed nearby, speaking quietly with her, encouraging her to continue exploring her gift. It was a brief conversation, but its impact was lasting. The woman understood that this encounter, initially a playful challenge, had opened a path she had never imagined, one filled with possibilities and new experiences. Walking out of the hall later, she felt lighter, almost as if a weight had been lifted. The streets seemed brighter, and the air felt sweeter. She had faced fear, embraced a challenge, and discovered something profound about herself. The world had shifted slightly, revealing that extraordinary things could happen in the most ordinary lives. And sometimes, a simple spark of courage could ignite something beautiful that no one, not even the most famous pianist, could predict. After the applause died down, the woman returned to her seat, still trembling from the intensity of the experience. Her mind raced with what had just happened, replaying every moment, every note she had struck. She could hardly believe it. The joke that had been intended to embarrass her had somehow transformed into a triumph she never anticipated. Around her, people continued to whisper, casting glances of admiration and surprise in her direction. She felt a mix of pride and disbelief, wondering how one moment could change everything so quickly. The pianist remained on the stage, his eyes occasionally meeting hers with a curious expression. He seemed genuinely intrigued, perhaps even impressed, but also cautious, as if he had not fully processed what he had witnessed. The room was still buzzing, a mixture of excitement and awe hanging in the air. The woman could feel the energy shifting around her, a realization that something extraordinary had occurred in the most ordinary of ways. As the casual session continued, others were invited to share their musical ideas or questions. The woman hesitated, uncertain if she should leave or stay longer. Part of her wanted to escape the attention, to return to her quiet, ordinary life, where mistakes could be private and achievements unnoticed. Yet, another part of her, a deeper part, wanted to explore this new side of herself. She had glimpsed a talent she had long underestimated, and for the first time, it felt real and powerful. The pianist, noticing her lingering, called her again, this time in a softer tone. "Would you like to try another piece?" he asked. His voice carried encouragement, not mockery. The woman froze for a moment. The thought of performing again made her heart race, but it also filled her with a strange warmth, a desire to continue despite the fear. She nodded slowly, stepping forward once more. This time she felt less pressure. The first performance had been a surprise to everyone, including herself, but now she understood that she had something worth sharing. She sat at the piano, fingers hovering over the keys. She closed her eyes briefly, feeling the familiar texture of the ivory beneath her fingertips, and let her mind drift to the melodies she knew so well. The music flowed more naturally this time, confident, expressive, and unrestrained. She let her emotions guide her fingers, allowing each note to tell a story she had never told anyone before. The audience watched intently, sensing a shift in the woman's presence. She was no longer hesitant or unsure. She moved with quiet confidence, each note resonating with honesty and passion. The pianist leaned closer, his playful expression replaced by one of respect. He could see her talent unfolding in real time, a discovery that seemed almost impossible. The simplicity of her style carried an authenticity that polished technique alone could not replicate. It was raw, heartfelt, and captivating. As she played, memories of her past surfaced. Moments of solitude at the piano, hours spent practicing alone, and the comfort music had always provided. Each note reflected a part of her journey, a life often overlooked by the world around her. The room was silent, everyone absorbed in the unexpected beauty of her performance. Even the whispers and laughter from before had vanished, replaced by an almost sacred attention. The pianist, known for his discerning taste, had rarely witnessed such unrefined brilliance paired with genuine emotion. When she finished, the applause was louder this time, filled with admiration and respect. People were visibly moved, some even standing to express their appreciation. She felt a sense of humility mixed with triumph. She had been ordinary in her own eyes, but in that moment, she had transcended her own expectations. The pianist approached, smiling warmly, his eyes reflecting genuine surprise. "You have a gift," he said quietly, his voice carrying sincerity. "Do not underestimate what you can achieve." Her mind whirled with his words. They were simple yet profound. For someone of his experience and stature to recognize her talent felt like validation she had never thought possible. She realized that courage, even when born from fear, could reveal hidden strengths. The small spark of bravery that led her to the piano had ignited a flame, one that could illuminate paths she had never considered. As the session concluded, people approached her to offer compliments and encouragement. The pianist lingered nearby, speaking to others but always glancing in her direction. She noticed the subtle nods he gave, acknowledging her presence and the impact she had made. The atmosphere had shifted. She was no longer invisible, no longer a simple woman in the crowd. She had become part of a shared experience, a story that people would carry with them long after the event ended. Walking out of the hall, she felt the cool evening air against her skin, a reminder that the world outside continued as usual. Yet, inside, she carried a new sense of possibility. She realized that life could hold unexpected moments of recognition and joy, moments that could arise from courage, authenticity, and the willingness to embrace vulnerability. Her heart felt lighter, her steps more certain, as she pondered the possibilities that lay ahead. Over the following days, the event replayed in her mind. She thought about the pianist's words, the warmth of the applause, and the surprise that had shifted the energy in the room. She understood that her life had changed subtly but significantly. The encounter had not only revealed her talent to the world, but also to herself. She began to see her own potential, the abilities she had overlooked, and the courage she could summon when faced with unexpected challenges. In her quiet moments at home, she returned to the piano, exploring melodies she had once feared attempting. Each note carried confidence and newfound freedom. The music that had once been private became a source of joy, discovery, and self-expression. She experimented with styles, tempos, and emotions, realizing that her abilities extended far beyond what she had imagined. The encouragement from the pianist lingered, a constant reminder that talent, when embraced, could flourish in the most ordinary of lives. Her friends and family noticed a change as well. She seemed more alive, more confident, carrying herself with a quiet assurance that drew attention without effort. They asked about the event, and she shared the story humbly, careful not to boast. But their admiration fueled her determination. She realized that the moment at the piano had not only shifted her own perspective but also inspired those around her. People began to see the power of courage, the beauty in authenticity, and the unexpected wonders that life could bring. The woman's thoughts often returned to the pianist. His playful challenge, initially intended as a joke, had become a turning point. She understood that sometimes, what seems like ridicule or mockery can reveal opportunities for growth and discovery. Life had a way of presenting tests in disguise, and those willing to embrace them, even hesitantly, could uncover hidden strengths. The pianist had unwittingly opened a door, and she had stepped through, emerging with a sense of accomplishment, pride, and wonder. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of the event continued to inspire her. She sought out opportunities to perform, practice, and grow her skills. The experience had shown her that talent, courage, and authenticity could intersect to create moments of profound impact. She embraced the challenge of developing her abilities, understanding that each note she played could tell a story, express emotion, and touch others in ways words often could not. The simple woman who had once doubted herself now walked a path filled with possibility. Guided by the lessons of a single, unexpected encounter, weeks had passed since the day the woman had been asked to play in front of the famous pianist, and yet the memory lingered like a melody she could not shake. Every time she sat at her piano at home, she remembered the feeling of the stage, the warmth of the applause, and the look of genuine surprise in the pianist's eyes. Her life had shifted subtly since that moment. She had become more aware of her own potential, but she also knew that talent without effort would fade. Determined, she decided to dedicate herself to improving her skills. She started to set aside regular hours each day to practice. First, it was awkward. She stumbled over pieces she had once thought simple and struggled to remember certain techniques. But she persisted, finding joy in each small success. The piano became her companion, a place where she could explore her emotions, experiment with melodies, and discover nuances she had never noticed before. The memory of performing in front of the pianist served as motivation, reminding her that even small efforts could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Meanwhile, the story of her unexpected performance began to circulate quietly. People who had attended the event shared it with friends and colleagues. The narrative of a simple woman surprising a world-renowned pianist spread with whispers of admiration and awe. Some described her playing as moving and heartfelt. Others marveled at the courage it took to step forward despite fear. The woman herself had mixed feelings about this newfound attention. Part of her felt proud, yet another part felt exposed and uncertain about how to navigate the recognition. One afternoon, as she practiced a particularly challenging piece, there was a knock on her door. She opened it to find a young student, timid and shy, holding a small notebook. The student introduced herself and explained that she had heard about the woman's performance and had come to learn from her. The woman felt a surge of surprise and warmth. She had never considered herself a teacher or a guide. Yet the student's eagerness reminded her of the impact a single performance could have. She invited the student in and began to share simple techniques, encouraging patience and practice. In doing so, she discovered a new joy, the ability to inspire and nurture others. As the weeks continued, she received a letter from the pianist himself. It was short but meaningful, acknowledging her talent and suggesting that she consider performing at a small recital he was organizing. He emphasized that it would be a casual gathering, meant to encourage new musicians and give them an audience. The woman stared at the letter for a long time, her heart racing. The opportunity thrilled her, but anxiety gnawed at her. Could she perform again? Could she live up to the expectations that now accompanied her newfound recognition? After much thought, she decided to accept the invitation. She realized that avoiding opportunities out of fear would only limit her growth. Over the next few weeks, she prepared diligently, practicing every day and experimenting with new pieces. She sought advice from other musicians, learned to refine her technique, and even began composing short melodies of her own. Each session strengthened her confidence, and she felt a growing sense of readiness for the upcoming recital. The day of the recital arrived, and the woman found herself once again in a space filled with anticipation. The hall was smaller than the one where she had first played, but it was still impressive, with warm lighting and an audience eager to listen. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she waited backstage, fingers hovering over her music sheets. Memories of her first performance returned. The fear, the uncertainty, and the surprise that had followed. This time, however, she was prepared in a way she had never been before. When it was her turn, she walked onto the stage, taking a deep breath as the audience's eyes settled on her. She sat at the piano, feeling the smooth keys beneath her fingers, and allowed herself a brief moment of calm. Then she began to play. The music flowed naturally, yet with precision she had developed through weeks of practice. Her fingers moved with confidence, and each note carried emotion and intent. The audience listened quietly, captivated by the performance that blended raw talent with newfound skill. The pianist, seated in the front row, watched intently. His expression reflected a mix of pride and admiration, a recognition of her growth and dedication. He had known there was potential within her, but seeing it flourish so quickly amazed him. As the piece continued, the woman felt herself becoming completely immersed in the music. It was no longer about fear or expectation. It was about expression, connection, and the joy of sharing something deeply personal. When she finished, the applause was immediate and heartfelt. The audience rose, clapping enthusiastically and offering cheers of encouragement. The woman felt a wave of relief and exhilaration. She had confronted her fear, embraced the challenge, and succeeded in a way that surpassed even her own expectations. The pianist approached her once more, extending his hand with a smile. "You have truly grown," he said. "Your dedication and passion are inspiring." The rest of the evening was filled with conversation, laughter, and music. Other performers shared their talents, but the woman's journey stood out to many. People approached her with questions, seeking advice or simply expressing admiration. She realized that her initial performance, once a source of nervousness, had now evolved into a platform for growth and influence. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the experiences that had brought her here and for the encouragement that had allowed her to embrace her abilities. After the recital, she returned home, reflecting on the path that had led to this moment. The pianist's challenge, once a joke, had become the catalyst for transformation. She understood that life often presents unexpected opportunities, and that courage, when combined with dedication, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Her journey was far from over, but she had discovered a strength within herself that would guide her forward. She realized that talent alone was not enough. It was the willingness to face fear, work diligently, and remain authentic that truly defined success. In the following days, she continued to practice and explore new musical ideas. She welcomed the young student who had come to learn from her, nurturing a relationship built on shared passion and mutual growth. The woman also began to consider ways to share her music more broadly, dreaming of performances beyond her local community. She understood that her story, once defined by humility and hesitation, was now a narrative of courage, discovery, and the transformative power of stepping into the unknown. Her life had been ordinary before that fateful day, filled with routine and quiet moments. But now, each day carried potential. Each note she played a reminder of her abilities and the unexpected paths that could emerge when fear was met with bravery. She knew challenges would continue to appear, but she felt ready to face them, confident that the lessons of her past experiences would guide her. The woman had begun to understand that life's most meaningful moments often arise from courage, authenticity, and the willingness to embrace the unknown, and that even a single spark of bravery could ignite a journey that transformed everything. The day of the special recital arrived, and the woman felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had prepared for weeks, practicing diligently and refining her technique. Yet, as she waited backstage, her heart raced, and doubt crept in. She reminded herself of the first time she had been asked to play, the unexpected applause, and the way the pianist had looked at her with genuine surprise. That memory gave her courage, and she took a deep breath, knowing that this moment was another step forward on her journey. When her name was called, she walked onto the stage, the lights warming her face and the audience's eyes settling on her. The pianist, seated at the front, gave a subtle nod of encouragement. She sat at the piano, feeling the smooth keys beneath her fingers, and closed her eyes for a brief moment. Then she began to play. The music started softly, building gradually as her confidence grew. Each note was deliberate, carrying emotion, precision, and a connection that drew the audience in. The pianist watched intently, his eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and surprise. He had expected a competent performance, perhaps a demonstration of basic skill, but what he witnessed went far beyond that. The woman's playing was not just technically sound. It carried a soulfulness that captivated everyone in the room. The subtle dynamics, the phrasing, and the expressive timing created a tapestry of sound that seemed to speak directly to the hearts of the listeners. As she continued, the audience became completely absorbed. Some closed their eyes, letting the music fill their thoughts, while others leaned forward in anticipation of each phrase. The pianist, known for his critical ear and exacting standards, could not hide his astonishment. He had encountered many skilled musicians, yet few had moved him in the way she was doing now. He realized that her talent went beyond technique. It was a rare combination of natural ability, emotion, and authenticity. The woman felt herself becoming fully immersed in the music. She forgot about the audience, the lights, and even the pressure she had felt moments before. The piano became an extension of her, a medium through which she could express every thought and feeling she had experienced. Memories of solitude at the piano, moments of quiet reflection, and the personal struggles she had overcome all merged into the melody she played. It was a performance that spoke not only of skill but of life itself. When she reached the final notes, she allowed them to linger, creating a moment of stillness that seemed to stretch in time. Then, the room erupted in applause. It was louder and more enthusiastic than she had ever experienced. People were on their feet, clapping, cheering, and expressing their admiration. The pianist stood as well, clapping with evident emotion, a smile breaking across his face. He approached her, extending his hand and speaking with a tone of genuine warmth. "You have surpassed every expectation," he said. "Your dedication, courage, and expression are extraordinary. Never doubt your talent." The woman felt a wave of relief and pride. The fear she had carried for weeks dissolved in the warmth of the applause and the validation from the pianist. She realized that every moment of doubt, every late night of practice, and every small step had led her to this extraordinary experience. She understood that the journey was as important as the performance itself, that growth often comes from embracing challenges and stepping into the unknown. After the recital, many people approached her, offering congratulations and expressing admiration. Some asked for advice, while others simply wanted to share how moved they had been by her playing. She listened and responded humbly, feeling a deep sense of connection with those who had witnessed her performance. It was clear that her music had touched more than ears. It had reached hearts. The recognition was overwhelming, yet it filled her with purpose and motivation to continue developing her abilities. The pianist took her aside for a private conversation. He spoke of opportunities, of how rare it was to find someone with her combination of natural talent and emotional depth. He encouraged her to consider further performances, to seek mentorship, and to share her music more widely. She listened attentively, absorbing his advice and feeling a mix of gratitude and excitement. His words reinforced the significance of what she had achieved and highlighted the path that lay ahead. That evening, as she walked home, the city lights seemed brighter, and the air felt fresher. The experience had left an indelible mark on her. She realized that the courage to face fear, the willingness to practice diligently, and the openness to express oneself authentically had led to a moment of genuine transformation. The fear that had once held her back now felt like a distant memory, replaced by confidence and a renewed sense of purpose. In the following days, she continued to practice and explore new musical ideas. She received invitations to perform in small concerts, workshops, and gatherings where her talent could be shared with others. Each performance reinforced the lessons she had learned. That bravery can uncover hidden potential, that dedication nurtures skill, and that authenticity resonates more deeply than perfection. She also began mentoring a few young students who had approached her, discovering the joy of guiding others on their own musical journeys. Her interactions with the pianist continued as well. He offered mentorship and support, providing insights into technique, expression, and the nuances of performance. Their relationship was one of mutual respect. He admired her growth, and she valued his guidance. The woman realized that opportunities often come from unexpected places, and that the people who notice and nurture talent can play a pivotal role in shaping one's path. She had been fortunate, but she also recognized that her own choices and dedication had been equally important. As weeks turned into months, she became more confident in her abilities. She experimented with composition, creating original pieces that reflected her personality and experiences. Her music began to draw attention beyond her immediate community, with people sharing recordings and stories of her performances. The journey that had begun with a playful challenge from a famous pianist had evolved into a life filled with creative expression, personal growth, and meaningful connections. Looking back, she understood that the pivotal moment on stage was more than a performance. It was a lesson in courage, perseverance, and the power of embracing one's gifts. The fear she had once felt had been transformed into fuel for growth, and the validation she received had been a reminder that talent, when nurtured and expressed honestly, could impact others profoundly. Her life had changed, not only in the opportunities that came her way but also in her understanding of herself and the world around her. In quiet moments, she reflected on how far she had come. The woman who had once doubted her abilities and feared public attention had become someone capable of inspiring, teaching, and performing with confidence. The pianist's initial joke had led to an extraordinary revelation, showing that even moments of doubt or playfulness could become catalysts for transformation. She had learned that life often unfolds in unexpected ways, and that courage, authenticity, and dedication can turn a single moment into a life-changing experience. The experience had also deepened her appreciation for the audience and the shared energy that music could create. She understood that performance was not only about skill but about connection, emotion, and the ability to move others. Each note she played carried intention, and each moment of vulnerability became an opportunity to touch hearts. She embraced this understanding fully, knowing that her journey as a musician was just beginning, and that the lessons from that day would guide her through every challenge and triumph that lay ahead. Months passed, and the woman found that her life had transformed in ways she had never imagined. The piano that had once been just a quiet companion in her home had become a source of connection, opportunity, and personal growth. She continued to practice daily, exploring more complex pieces, experimenting with original compositions, and honing her technique. But it was not just skill that had developed. It was her confidence, her understanding of music's power, and her belief in her own potential. She had begun performing at small venues, workshops, and gatherings. Each performance was a learning experience, a way to connect with others, and share the emotions that music allowed her to express. People were drawn not only to her talent but also to her authenticity. She played with honesty, letting the music speak as an extension of herself. Every audience member could feel the sincerity in her notes, the care with which she approached each piece, and the subtle stories embedded within her melodies. The pianist remained an important figure in her journey. He continued to offer guidance, mentoring her through more advanced techniques, performance strategies, and ways to convey emotion effectively. Their relationship was based on mutual respect. He valued her natural talent and dedication, and she appreciated his insights, encouragement, and belief in her abilities. Together, they explored new musical ideas, discussing compositions, performance styles, and the nuances of interpretation. One day, she received an invitation to perform at a regional music festival. The invitation recognized her as an emerging talent and offered her the chance to play alongside other skilled musicians. The woman felt a familiar flutter of nervousness, tempered by the confidence she had developed over months of practice and performance. She accepted the invitation, determined to approach it with focus and dedication. This opportunity represented more than a performance. It was a chance to measure her growth and share her music with a wider audience. In preparation, she meticulously practiced each piece, refining phrasing, dynamics, and expression. She experimented with different interpretations, finding the balance between technical precision and emotional depth. Her home became a place of intense creativity, where she explored the boundaries of her abilities and discovered new strengths. The piano was no longer just an instrument. It was a conduit for self-expression, a mirror of her journey, and a bridge to connect with others. When the day of the festival arrived, she walked onto the stage with calm determination. The hall was large, filled with people eager to hear the performances. She took a deep breath and sat at the piano, feeling the familiar smooth keys under her fingers. As she began to play, the music flowed naturally, confident, expressive, and authentic. Each note carried emotion and intention, and the audience responded with attentive silence, fully absorbed in the performance. The pianist, seated in the front row, watched with quiet pride. He could see how much she had grown, both as a musician and as an individual. The dedication, courage, and persistence she had demonstrated since their first encounter were evident in every note. He knew that her journey was still unfolding, yet the progress she had made was extraordinary. Her playing resonated with a depth that moved people, revealing the power of talent nurtured with passion and authenticity. As the final notes lingered and the hall erupted into applause, the woman felt a wave of fulfillment. She had faced her fear, embraced challenges, and shared her gift with others. The audience's reaction reinforced her understanding that music could connect people in profound ways. She realized that her journey was no longer defined by fear or hesitation, but by courage, persistence, and the joy of sharing her talents. After the festival, invitations to perform continued to grow. She received messages from people she had never met, expressing how her music had touched them, inspired them, or brought them comfort. She also began mentoring more students, guiding them in the same way she had been encouraged, teaching not only technique but also the importance of confidence, authenticity, and perseverance. She discovered the joy of helping others realize their potential, understanding that her own journey could empower those around her. Reflecting on her path, she recognized the extraordinary chain of events that had brought her here. The pianist's initial playful challenge, intended as a joke, had sparked a transformation that she could never have anticipated. That moment of courage, when she chose to step forward despite fear, had set in motion a series of experiences that reshaped her life. She understood that life often presents opportunities disguised as challenges, and that embracing them with honesty and determination can reveal hidden strengths. Her life had also changed in subtle, personal ways. She felt more self-assured, more capable of facing challenges outside of music. The confidence she had developed translated into her interactions with others, her willingness to take risks, and her ability to pursue goals she might have previously considered unattainable. She no longer viewed herself as ordinary or limited. Instead, she recognized her potential and understood the power of dedication, courage, and persistence. The woman also learned to appreciate the small, quiet moments in life. Each practice session, each interaction with a student, and each performance was meaningful. She understood that progress was gradual and that the most important growth often happened behind the scenes, in moments of persistence, reflection, and self-discovery. Her music became a reflection of her life, capturing emotion, experience, and authenticity in every note. One afternoon, she sat at her piano and thought about the journey that had begun months ago. She remembered the nervousness, the fear of failure, and the surprise of her first performance in front of the pianist. She reflected on how those moments had changed her perspective, revealing that courage, talent, and dedication could transform even the simplest of actions into something extraordinary. The piano, once a quiet companion, had become a symbol of her growth, her expression, and her connection to the world. She realized that the lessons she had learned went beyond music. They were lessons about life. The importance of embracing challenges, trusting oneself, and finding strength in vulnerability. She understood that success was not defined solely by recognition or applause, but but by the courage to pursue one's gifts, the persistence to develop them, and the willingness to share them with others. These principles guided her daily life, shaping her interactions, decisions, and aspirations. In the months and years that followed, the woman continued to perform, teach, and compose. Her music reached wider audiences, and she became a source of inspiration for many. The pianist remained a mentor and a friend, witnessing her continued growth and offering guidance when needed. Yet, she also recognized her own agency in the journey. It had been her courage, dedication, and authenticity that had brought her this far, and she embraced the responsibility and privilege of sharing her talents with the world. Looking back, she understood that life often unfolds in unexpected ways. A moment that seemed trivial or playful could become transformative. The journey of the simple woman who once doubted herself had evolved into a story of courage, discovery, and impact. She had learned that true growth comes from embracing challenges, nurturing one's abilities, and remaining authentic in expression. Her music, her teaching, and her journey all reflected this understanding, creating a life enriched by experience, connection, and the courage to step into the unknown. The woman knew that challenges would continue to appear, but she felt ready to face them. Each note she played, each student she guided, and each opportunity she embraced was a reminder of how far she had come and how much she had grown. Her life had been transformed not by chance alone, but by her willingness to act, to persevere, and to remain true to herself. The story that began with a simple, playful challenge had become a testament to the power of courage, dedication, and authenticity, and it would continue to inspire her and others long into the future.